comes the form realm, which is divided into 4 basic layers, and each one has a number of subdivisions. And the form realm is entered through or attained through the jhanas, through the meditative absorptions. And then above the form realm is the formless realm, which is attained through the formless meditative attainments, and that has 4 subdivisions. And then beyond all of the realms of existence is the unconditioned state, or the transcendent state, which is nibbana, the state of ultimate liberation. Okay, so now the Buddha is going to explain how, according to one's aspiration, one might be reborn in the 6 sense sphere heavenly realms. And so he starts off with the lowest of these heavenly realms. This is called the heaven of the 4 great kings, the Chatu Maharajika Devas. So somebody might hear that the Devas, the gods in this realm, are long-lived, beautiful, and enjoy great happiness. And so he forms an aspiration to be, or a wish to be reborn in that realm. Then he turns that wish into an aspiration, fixes it in the mind, and then he has sufficient virtuous qualities, and so he can be reborn there. And then the same thing is said about the next, or the other 5 heavens of the sensory realm. There's the Tavatingsa heaven, the heaven of the 33. This is presided over by Sakka, the king of the gods. Sakka is a kind of Buddhist metamorphosis of the Vedic deity Indra, the ruler of the gods. Then come the Yama Devas. Not very much is said about them actually in the Buddhist texts. It's a bit puzzling. Then comes the Tusita heaven. This is supposed to be the heaven presided over by the Bodhisattva who's going to be the next Buddha, Maitreya or Maitreya. And some of the Buddha's eminent lay disciples were reborn in the Tusita heaven, like Anathapindika and Visakha, great generous lay disciple, woman lay disciple. Then the gods who delight in creating, in creation. And then the gods who wield power over the creation of others. And now, to be reborn in these heavenly worlds, it's said in some other suttas, the supporting conditions are a very high level of development of generosity or giving, and of virtuous behavior, that is, of sila, of good conduct. But the meditative development doesn't have to reach the level of the jhanas to be reborn in those realms. I think somebody who practices the meditation, for example, recollection of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, meditation on the 3 jewels, or who practices the 4 divine abode meditations, the Brahma Viharas, without reaching the level of jhana, will be developing very powerful, wholesome qualities of mind. And those wholesome qualities of mind will be the kind of psychological counterpart of the devas in those realms. So naturally, one's mind will tend to gravitate towards the realm that corresponds to one's level of mental development. So somebody who has an abundance of faith and devotion to the triple gem, or who has an abundance of loving kindness and compassion, altruistic joy, will tend, but without reaching the level of jhanic absorption, will tend to be reborn in these realms. somebody practices the meditation on maybe even the kasina meditation or mindfulness of breathing without reaching jhana, perhaps that will lead also to this realm. But even somebody who doesn't actually have a formal meditation practice, but still has very high development of generosity, virtuous behavior, and through the observance of sila, develop strong dispositions towards kindness, compassion, helpfulness to others, the mind will tend to be reborn in that realm. But in order to be in order to be more certain of being reborn in one of those realms, one would have to, or one should, fix the aspiration on being reborn there. If not, then it's possible that just because one's been a human being with many natural human dispositions, the mind might tend back into the human realm. Okay, before we go further, maybe at this point I'll ask whether there's any questions. Yes, please.
Testing. Testing.
It's good if you take the microphone.
Oh, sure. Like this? Is that okay?
Yeah, this is good.
Closer? Okay. Oh, thank you, Stephen. I see a comparison or a parallel with Pure Land teaching in the sense that in the Pure Land Sutras, it always states, we always see a statement that aspiration to the Pure Land, along with the keeping of the precepts,
Yeah, so that's
key.
Yeah, so that is, I mean, definitely the case. If I remember in the Pure Land, there's 3 steps: faith, vow, and practice. Are those the 3 steps? Somebody who knows the Pure Land.
Pure Land really won't, not me. Faith, vow, and practice.
Okay, so faith means that one has faith in the vows of Amitabha Buddha or Amitabha, that supposedly Amitabha Buddha has made the vow that those who recite his name and pay homage to him with pure faith can be reborn in Sukhavati, the land of happiness, the Pure Land. So one needs faith, then one has to have the vow to be reborn there. So that is that corresponds to the aspiration. And then the practice would be, well, usually it's understood as the recitation of the name. But of course, for the recitation to be effective, it has to be supported by virtuous qualities, including the observance of the silas, precepts. Your name is?
Maya Devi, Deborah.
Okay,
Hi.
Deborah. Okay.
I keep pondering why any of the bhikkhus that the Buddha is addressing, or any of us, would want to aspire to rebirth in anything less than total deliverance from the highest state. What would motivate, or what was the Buddha possibly thinking that people would want to be reborn into other different, or possibly lower realms?
Yeah, actually this is a good point. And now somebody who is following the Buddha's teaching would not be aspiring to rebirth, say, into these heavenly realms taken as a final goal in itself. They would still, because they have panya, or wisdom, so they have an understanding of the teaching, which means that they would understand that Nibbana is the state of ultimate deliverance, and so their ultimate goal would be Nibbana. But, and this is probably the case with the great majority of both monastics and lay people today, they don't see that they have sufficiently strong, wholesome roots or wholesome qualities to reach Nibbana right in this present life. And so as a kind of temporary way station, they'll be aspiring to be reborn in a good destination in order to meet suitable conditions for continuing the practice up to the point where they can reach liberation. And now there's sometimes a misunderstanding. Your question reminds me of a common misunderstanding amongst Buddhists, that it's only possible to practice the Dharma and to make progress in the human realm, and that the heavenly realms are sort of just pleasant detours which are useless in terms of the ultimate goal. I think this is a misunderstanding based upon the statement that a person will only achieve Buddhahood only in the human realm, which is a statement which is made in the text. And that is the case because the human realm, you see, when a person achieves Buddhahood, that person doesn't have the teaching of the Dharma already available to them. So they have to discover the Dharma on their own without any external guidance, without a path that's already mapped out for them. And so in order to achieve Buddhahood, they have to realize the Four Noble Truths. And so for that to be possible, they have to be reborn. It's said that they have to be reborn into a realm in which there is a balance of, or some admixture of pleasure and pain, happiness and suffering. If they're reborn in the lower realms, then there's too much suffering there, so they can't realize the truth there and gain liberation. And if they're reborn in one of the heavenly realms, there's too much happiness there, so they can't discover the Dharma of liberation there. Okay, so that is the case for somebody to achieve Buddhahood. That is, to discover the Dharma in a period when it doesn't exist in the world. But it's the case that when the Dharma is made known in the world, when it's proclaimed, when it's available, then the beings who are in the heavenly world can hear the Dhamma and achieve even the stages of realization within the heavenly realms, even up to arhatship. So it's said, for example, if you look at the first discourse of the Buddha, a passage which is often left out when people are giving a summary of the first discourse, is the very long passage which comes at the end, where when the Buddha is speaking, each group of devas, starting from the earth-dwelling devas, then going up through each successive deva realm, up to the highest Brahma realms, gives out the shout that the unsurpassed wheel of the Dharma has been set in motion by the Blessed One in the deer park at Benares, a wheel that cannot be stopped by any ascetic Brahma, by any ascetic Brahmin, Deva, Mara, Brahma, or anyone in the world. And then it's said in the commentaries that these Devas and Brahmas, many of them achieve the Dhamma Chakku, the eye of Dhamma, the insight into the true Dhamma, by listening to the Buddha's discourse. Okay, and so those who don't expect to reach liberation within this life can still form the aspiration. They know that they're going to be reborn someplace within samsara, and so they certainly don't want to be reborn in the lower realms where they don't have any chance to practice the Dhamma. And so one forms the aspiration to be reborn in some realm corresponding to the level of one's practice, to be reborn in some realm where one has the opportunity to encounter the Dhamma again and to continue the practice. And so you see, sometimes even at the end of the commentaries, the commentators who have to be very learned and knowledgeable to write these commentaries, and also have very good qualities because they're practicing the Dhamma. they form the aspiration, may I be reborn. Usually they form the aspiration to be reborn in the Tusita Deva world, and then to come back into the human realm at the time when Metteyya arises in the world, and then usually to go forth as a monk and to hear the Dhamma, and then to achieve the final fruit, the fruit of liberation, through the teaching of Maitreya. Of course, one would think that they could also form the aspiration to achieve the final fruit under Gautama Buddha. Okay, any further questions? Okay, this is...
Bhante, what you just explained
Yeah.
about the realms, does that apply to the formless realms also?
Yeah, that's the good point. In fact, I was thinking that when I was explaining. Now, somebody who hasn't reached the stage of stream entry, if they are reborn in the formless realm, they cannot reach any path or fruit there. And the reason is, in order to reach the first stage of realization, the stage of stream entry, they have to realize it through hearing the Dhamma. They have to have learned the Dhamma by hearing. And the beings in the formless realm don't have bodies, which means they don't have ears or the faculty of hearing. So they can't hear the Dhamma in the formless realm. And so a person who hasn't reached the first stage of realization cannot reach the first stage in the formless realm. But somebody who has reached the first stage of realization, or any higher stage short of arhatship, can aspire to be reborn in the formless realm and be reborn there. But now, because they've reached stream entry, they have the experiential correct view of the Dhamma. And so they're able to carry on the practice independently of any teacher. And so they can be reborn in the formless realm, and now they have the world-transcending Noble Eightfold Path. And so they can use that world-transcending path in order to continue to cultivate and to reach arhatship in the formless realm, to reach final liberation in the formless realm. And that question reminds me, or makes me think of another answer to Debbie's question, that these instructions here could be directed not only to those who don't expect to reach a path and fruit in this life itself, but also for those who have reached the lower paths and fruits, but don't think that they're able to reach arhatship in this life. And so they're going to take a rebirth someplace. And so now they're forming the aspiration to be reborn in a particular realm where, since they've reached at least the first path and fruit, once they take rebirth, they're going to have access to the Dhamma, even inner access to the Dhamma. But now, being reborn under suitable conditions, now they can continue their practice up to the stage of final realization. Is that clear? So having reached, say, the first or second path, by which they're still going to be reborn amongst human beings or the sense sphere devas. So now they form the aspiration to be reborn under particular conditions in the human realm or in one or another of the realms of the sense sphere devas, in order to continue the practice up to the higher paths and fruits. Okay, now we come to the rebirth into the higher realms. So again, the Buddha starts off by mentioning the 5 prerequisites from faith to wisdom. And then the monk hears about the Brahma of 1,000. These are different, what's going to take place in this section, the following sections, are the different layers of Brahmas. You see, the form realm is divided or subdivided into 4 realms, or 4 planes, which correspond to the levels of the 4 jhanas. And so those who achieve the first jhana and master that jhana will be reborn in the lowest plane of the form realm. And that plane is subdivided into 3 levels, which are not dealt with here. But I assume what's being spoken of here are those beings at the top level of those 3 at the lowest level. Those are the Brahmas, the Mahabrahmas, and those Brahmas differ in their power, the extent of their sovereignty, according to the size of their world systems. So we start off at the lowest level of the Brahmas who are ruling over 1,000, a world system of 1,000 worlds. Okay, and so he hears that these Brahmas are long-lived, beautiful, and enjoy great happiness. And then he hears that the Brahma of 1,000 abides, pervading a world system of 1,000 worlds. And he abides, resolved on pervading the beings that have been reborn there. The commentary explains what's meant by pervading, 5 kinds of pervading. I think what's important is that he's able to pervade all of these worlds with the light, with his aura, with his glory. And to know the minds of the beings in 1,000 worlds, to see them, those beings, with his divine eye, to pervade them with his light, the light of his glory, and pervasion of the body, which means extending one's bodily aura to 1,000 worlds. Actually, pervasion of light means being able to extend the light to those 1,000 worlds, and then with that light to see the worlds and to see all of the beings dwelling in those worlds. And then pervasion of body means to extend one's bodily aura or one's radiance to 1,000 worlds. Okay, so the monk hears that the Brahma of 1,000 enjoys such glory, and then he forms the aspiration, fixes his mind on that, and then if his supporting conditions are sufficient, then he will be reborn in accordance with the aspiration. However, to be reborn in accordance with one's aspiration, in addition to those 5 qualities mentioned, one also needs the first jhana, and to achieve mastery over the first jhana. Because rebirth in the Brahma world, that's part of the form realm, which is beyond the sense sphere realm. And to break the barrier which separates the sense sphere realm from the form realm, one needs the attainment of the jhana, the first jhana. Okay, then the next paragraphs deal with more elevated, more powerful Brahmas. So the Brahma who presides over a world system of 2,000 worlds, a world system of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 worlds. Then we go down, paragraph 17, a Brahma who presides over a world system of 10,000 worlds. Then paragraph 18, the Brahma who presides over a world system of 100,000 worlds. Maybe we could see these if we think of galaxies with different numbers of solar systems within them. And if we think of each solar system, well, that doesn't quite work out, because any galaxy has, I'd say a galaxy will have many more than 1,000 solar systems. Let's not try to make exact parallels between ancient Buddhist cosmology and modern cosmology. So just think of it in terms of ancient Indian cosmology, but we could think of a world system as like a galaxy, and within that galaxy there are a certain number of worlds, say worlds with intelligent life, and those would be the worlds that constitute that galaxy. Okay, and so each of these is a higher and more powerful level of a Brahma, who is the king, the presiding deity over these world systems. And so to be reborn in successively higher world systems, one would need successively more powerful development of the 5 virtues and a stronger development of the jhana. But all of these levels of the different Brahmas are taking place within the sphere that corresponds still to the first jhana. Because when we come to the next passage, starting with 19, now we come with the gods of radiance, the gods of limited radiance, the gods of immeasurable radiance, and the gods of streaming radiance. Those are the realms, or those are the planes within the form realm that correspond to the second jhana. And according to this gets a little technical, according to classical Buddhist cosmology, the gods of radiance don't constitute one separate plane, but that's just a general term for the gods of the next 3 planes, the gods of limited radiance, the gods of immeasurable radiance, and the gods of streaming radiance. So there seems to be a little bit of a disagreement here between the cosmology in the Buddha Sutta and the later systematic form of cosmology, which eliminates gods of radiance as a separate realm, and as I said, just treats it as a general term for the gods of the 3 fixed planes of limited radiance, immeasurable radiance, and streaming radiance. So those 3 are taken to be the 3 planes that correspond to the second jhana. Then come then come the planes that correspond, the planes of the gods that correspond to the third jhana. Those are the gods of glory, gods of limited glory, gods of immeasurable glory, and gods of refulgent glory. So in the suttas we have 4 planes, but in the developed Buddhist cosmology of the Abhidharma and the commentaries, the gods of glory are interpreted to be not a separate plane, but just a general term for the gods of the three planes, the gods of limited glory, the gods of immeasurable glory, the gods of refulgent glory. And those are the three subplanes that those are the names for the three subplanes or subdivisions that correspond to the third jhana. So those who reach the third jhana and have the requisite excellent qualities can be reborn in those planes. Then for the fourth jhana, we have one plane that corresponds to the fourth jhana for those who are either worldlings or stream enterers or once returners. And this is called the gods of great fruit. So those, whether one is a worldling, a stream enterer, or once returner, if one has the fourth jhana and the supporting qualities, the five supporting qualities, then one can be reborn in the realm of great fruit. Now those who become non-returners, that is, who reach the third fruit of or third stage of realization, the third fruit of the path, those will be reborn in what are called the pure abodes. These are realms reserved for non-returners. Only non-returners can be reborn in those realms. And in those realms, non-returners achieve arhatship. So those realms can be populated by non-returners or by arahats, not by anybody else. And there are 5 of these planes which make up the pure abodes. Those are the Aviha gods, the Atapa gods, the Sudasa gods, the Sudasi gods, and the Akanita gods. Okay, so somebody who has reached, as a human being who has reached the third stage of realization, can then make the aspiration to be reborn in one or another of the pure abodes. And if they have the strong aspiration and sufficient supporting qualities, they'll be reborn there. It is said that these 5 levels of the pure abodes are distinguished by the dominant spiritual faculty. That is, starting from the lowest, the Aviha gods have for them the strong faculty is that of faith. For the Atapa gods, the strong faculty is energy. For the Sudasa gods, actually it should go in the opposite direction. No, maybe it goes this way. For the Sudasa gods, the strong faculty is mindfulness. For the Sudasi gods, the strong faculty is samadhi. And for the Akanita gods, the strong faculty is that of wisdom. But that is said in maybe a sub-commentary, so I don't know how authoritative it is. Okay, now the next passage takes us for those who are aspiring to rebirth in the formless realms. And this, according to Osman's question, seems a little bit strange to me, that somebody would be aspiring to rebirth in one of the formless realms unless they've reached some stage of realization as a human being. Because if they're reborn in the formless realm, then, and they haven't achieved any stage of realization, then they have to spend so many aeons. Of course, they enjoy there the peace, the equanimity, the serenity of those realms. But after that period of time comes to an end, then they come back either into one of the Deva realms or the human realm, empty-handed, so to speak. They don't have any realization. And notice in the description of the gods of these realms, it says that they are long-lived, long-enduring, and enjoy great happiness. But one word is dropped out of the description. What is the word? From the description of the other deities? What is that? Beautiful. Because they don't have physical bodies, so they can't be described as beautiful. Instead, it said that they're long-lived, long-enduring, and enjoy great happiness. Okay, but the Buddha is explaining even the path that leads to rebirth in those realms, even though those realms are in a sense a dead end. Richard? I think that it's just a synonym, I think, so that each realm will have 3 descriptive terms.
But what I was thinking is it's kind of an odd synonym, because enduring normally is transitive. You endure something, namely you endure pain, suffering, travail, and so on. And there wouldn't be anything to endure in...
I think maybe that's the fault of the English word. I think the Pali word is chiratayi, long-lasting, one might say.
Right, okay.
It's not enduring in the sense of having patience to endure difficulties. Okay, so that takes us through rebirth in the formless realm. Formless realm with its 4 planes. Okay, then in the last paragraph, we finally come to the ultimate goal of the Buddha's teaching. So here the monk possesses faith, virtue, learning, generosity or relinquishment, and wisdom. And then he thinks, oh, that by realizing for myself with direct knowledge, I might here and now enter and abide in the liberation of mind, liberation by wisdom, that are taintless with the destruction of the asavas. And then, so he forms that aspiration, and then by realizing it for himself with direct knowledge, he here and now enters and dwells in the liberation of mind, liberation by wisdom that are taintless with the destruction of the asavas. And then the Buddha says, this monk is not reborn anywhere at all. Okay, and then that takes us to the end of the sutta. So any questions on the sutta or any comments? Yes, Yeah, please take the microphone.
If they're not reborn anywhere,
Yeah.
then it's nothingness, nowhere, empty?
It's empty in a sense, but it means that they achieved what's called the nibbana element without residue.
So they're born in nirvana then, technically.
It's not a state of rebirth, because rebirth implies that.
Mind?
Excuse me?
It's a state of mind?
Well, after achieving the final nibbana, the continuum, you see, what we call body and mind are just a process of bodily events or physical events that constitute the body and mental events that constitute the mind. And so what we think of as myself is just this continuous process of co-arisen process of bodily and mental events arising and passing away. And so with the attainment of final nibbana, then there's no more arising of body and mind. But it doesn't mean, we think of it from the Western standpoint, if there's no body and mind there, it must be nothingness. Just complete zero. But from the Buddha standpoint, what lies beyond body and mind is the state of ultimate freedom, peace, bliss, serenity. Even though bliss and serenity are usually mental experiences, but this is something which transcends mental experiences. This is nirvana or nibbana, the state of liberation.
No more suffering.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah.
The immaterial world, are they physical location, or is it some kind of mind state accessible to the meditator? Say if someone who is in the middle of a formless meditation.
Okay, if somebody is, as a human being, achieves a formless meditative absorption, they still have the physical body, and that their mind is within the meditative absorption of that state. Say, the attainment of boundless consciousness, the state of boundless consciousness. So as a human being, they still have the body, but as they're sitting there in meditation, the mind is in the state of boundless consciousness. Now, when they pass away, there's no physical plane called the base of boundless consciousness, because it's a formless realm, which means it's a non-physical realm. But it is a particular realm of existence. So what happens is that the mind occurs at the level of that realm. And we call the mind which arises there a new being. So we say that this being has passed away from the human state and been reborn in the base of boundless consciousness, or the base of infinite consciousness. And so that being is now existing just as a stream of mind, a stream of mental events at the level of the base of boundless consciousness. But because that base is non-physical, it doesn't exist, it doesn't have any